y'all. Welcome to Paige's Perspective, where I help you find your inner strength to cope with life. This week, I'm going to elaborate a bit on triggers we as spouses may have. As we mentioned in a recent episode, we are expected to learn about our partner's triggers, but rarely are our triggers discussed. And many times we don't even understand what it is we're going through or what our bodies are trying to scream at us. If the triggers are discussed, it's typically in a setting where we're told we're controlling, we need to let go of the obsession, we are sick, our responses are crazy, etc. And I'm here to challenge that narrative because we know more about how the brain and trauma works these days, and most of the time our triggers are just trauma responses. I will say though that triggers may not be our fault, but they are our responsibility to manage. They're meant to be used as data. They're telling us something, which is actually an empowering process if we look at it that way, instead of staying stuck with them and not knowing what to do about it. But this episode is mainly for educational purposes, to help you possibly understand what you're going through if you have triggers. So what do our triggers look like as the spouse? I'm going to go through a lot of these and explain what they actually represent. So let's start with the more obvious ones, the tangible ones, the ones that are pretty loud. These are the environmental triggers. So sound of a can opening, beer, seltzer, sparkling water, soda, anything similar. This tells our body that, danger is coming because it associates alcohol with harmful behavior. The clinking of bottles, shot glasses touching the countertop, ice from ice maker going into the cup, smell of alcohol, smoke, or even cologne or perfume, like if somebody used that to cover up their scent. The sight of a liquor store bag, maybe billboards or commercials that have alcohol in them, empty cans, bottles in the trash, credit card charges at bars, gas stations, or liquor stores, certain TV shows or songs that, remind you of some harmful days. These represent anticipation of harm, repeated betrayal, and loss of stability. So the environmental triggers are easy to spot. They're tangible. Your brain is wired to scan the danger, and these are the easiest things to see or hear. But let's get into some more where your body senses danger, but you can't really pinpoint why it's triggering. You may think it's because, they must be drinking again because they're doing these things. However, it isn't necessarily the drinking that's causing the triggers. Okay, it's the behavior of neglect and being absent. So let me go down the list and I'll elaborate a bit. So not answering calls or texts. Let's say that you're calling them, they're not answering you, or you're texting and they're not answering you, and you're getting triggered by this. This represents abandonment and lack of reliability. It signals that I don't matter enough to get a response. I can't depend on you. Guys, we're supposed to depend on our partner. So this trigger makes sense. Coming home late without explanation. This represents secrecy and unpredictability. It's telling your body, I can't trust your word. I'm not safe if I can't count on you, or if I can't count on when you'll show up. Again, we're supposed to depend on our partner. Falling asleep on the couch randomly. This represents emotional disconnection and avoidance. It feels like you'd rather check out than connect with me or our family. Again, we're supposed to depend on our partner. Disappearing during family events or holidays. This represents rejection. It lands as when it matters most, you choose the substance or escape over us. Again, we're supposed to depend on our partner. Missing kids' activities. Maybe you're triggered by this. This represents betrayal of values and priorities. It's showing you that you don't show up for what matters most, which means I can't trust you to be the partner or parent our family needs. Again, we're supposed to depend on our partners. So these triggers represent abandonment, rejection, disconnection, secrecy, and betrayal of trust. And that's why they sting so much more than just being late or just falling asleep. It hits a deep wound that they caused. So let's do some more. I'm going to go into some emotional or relational triggers. Yelling or sudden mood changes, gaslighting, saying that you're imagining things or you're too sensitive. This one was a big trigger for me. I was told I was too sensitive a lot, or that I'm catastrophizing a lot, and it used to trigger me. And then love bombing after fights or broken promises. All of these may trigger a response in you. And these all represent emotional abuse, manipulation, loss of relational security. So yes, no wonder you're being triggered by them. They are alarms telling you something. Let's get into the physical and body language triggers. Glassy eyes or slurred speech, avoiding eye contact. Maybe they're agitated or they're pacing, excessive gum use or chewing on mints. These represent signals of danger, loss of emotional intimacy, and dishonesty. Past link triggers, holidays, anniversaries, trips gone wrong, packing for vacations may trigger you. These represent fear of repeated patterns or trauma replay. So it all boils down to safety. Okay, safety is a core human need, and we need to feel safe in our most intimate relationships. They are supposed to be our safe person. We are supposed to depend on them. All of these triggers are telling us we aren't safe. We aren't overreacting. We aren't being dramatic. Our bodies are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And these triggers will continue into sobriety unless your partner is actually holding space for you to feel what you feel and changing behaviors. Again, it takes years of trust. It takes years to trust someone again after they've harmed you. And it takes consistent changed behaviors to rebuild that trust. You cannot have a healthy relationship without trust and safety. So when it comes to triggers, our brains latch onto the tangible. You can smell alcohol. You can hear a can crack open. You can see a bottle on the counter. It's easy for our brain to say, that's the problem. But betrayal, lying, manipulation, those are slippery. Sometimes the person is loving. Sometimes they're cruel. Sometimes they are apologetic. It's harder to pin down. So your nervous system takes a shortcut. It flags the alcohol as the threat because that's the thing you can see and measure. And honestly, there's another reason we go there, because it's safer in the moment to believe that alcohol is the enemy. If the bottle is the problem, then sobriety is the solution. But if the person is the problem, like their choices or their behaviors, that's a much harder truth to face. And let's be honest, we live in a world that constantly tells us to blame the substance. They're not themselves when they drink. They didn't mean it. It was the alcohol talking. It's not them. It's the disease. So of course our brains absorb it. We're conditioned to give the person a pass and make the alcohol the villain or the substance. But here's the thing. Alcohol didn't lie to you. Alcohol didn't gaslight you. Alcohol didn't betray your trust. A person did. And they did it even when they weren't drinking. You may think they are perfect when they're sober, but again, it's a cover. We can't look at them separately. We have to look at the issues as a whole. If we only look at the positive, we aren't looking at reality. And we tell ourselves this because it's hard to see reality. I get it. But the clarity we get from acknowledging reality can be so powerful for us. It helps us live a life based on our values and who we want to be. Anyway, I'm kind of off track here, but I'm going to get back to this. So sobriety alone doesn't heal a relationship because the alcohol was not the root issue. It might have turned up the volume, but the dishonesty, the cruelty, the betrayal, those behaviors are there. That's what your nervous system is really responding to, whether you realize it or not. So if you catch yourself saying, I'm triggered by the drinking, try naming it more honestly. I'm triggered by the lies. I'm triggered by the betrayal that showed up. I'm triggered by the manipulation. That shift matters because it puts the focus back where it belongs, on behavior and not just the substance. And that's where your power lives. You can't control whether someone picks up a drink, but you can decide what you're willing to accept in terms of honesty, respect, and safety. And understanding this is so freeing because it means your healing isn't about waiting for them to quit drinking. It's about seeing the truth underneath, the behaviors and the choices they've made. That's what your body is reacting to. That's what deserves your attention. We can hold space and understand that somebody is struggling with addiction, but also understand that we have to protect ourselves. The behaviors impact us. They will impact us for the rest of our lives. We will be working on trust issues for a very long time. We forget how to trust ourselves, and that's what's so scary and heartbreaking about all of this. People don't realize what lying does to another person. It affects them on a very deep level, and we can't put that all on the disease. In order to protect ourselves, we have to acknowledge what these behaviors are actually doing to us. They are rewiring our brains. There are plenty of resources for them to get help and work on their behaviors, but safety is priority when it comes to ourselves and our kids. These triggers are alarms going off telling us to make a change. Now, when it comes to managing triggers, we put a module together On that, in the Independently Strong program, we recognize that triggers may not be our fault, but they are our responsibility to learn how to respond to. So if you're interested in learning more about that, check out independentlystrong.com and use the code Wheelies75 for a 75% discount on the program. So we designed this program with a licensed therapist. It's self-paced. You get a support group every Wednesday with Matt or me or both, or sometimes neither of us, depending on what's going on in our lives. Somebody's leading it and others going through a similar journey. You deserve healing and a voice on your path, and we're here to help you navigate that. And I know it's scary and a difficult journey to go through, but the tools you learn and the clarity that you gain, oh my gosh, it's so incredible. These tools can last a lifetime and help you through all areas of your life. I just want you to know that I understand the triggers we have. I've been there, but they aren't character defects. You're not controlling. You aren't weak. You've just been in an environment where your body feels unsafe. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to do something with it. Again, our content isn't meant to be weaponized or to keep us stuck in the victim mentality. It's meant to help you name what you're going through. Triggers show you've been through enough pain that your body is trying to keep you safe. Healing is about taking that signal and responding in a way that honors your safety and values instead of letting the triggers run the show. Your life matters too, guys. That's all I have for this week. Until next time, I'm Paige. Bye.